Hey, Journeyers, it's Irene from Bay Wellness Coaching, and today I'm excited to have my friends Brian and Cathy on the call today. They're going to be talking about their experience as first-time parents. So they are the parents of a 7.5-month-old, cute, extremely cute, so chunky and so cute baby Benji. So if you don't mind kind of starting off, how are you all doing today?
Tired.
The normal things of being a parent.
Yeah.
Definitely tired, sleepy. We're both working also at the same time, so it's extra exhausting.
Mhm.
But yeah, overall, we're excited to have him around all the time and watching him grow.
Yeah, and what's baby Benji doing right now while you're having a little chit chat upstairs?
Yeah, grandma's watching him right now downstairs, so it's nice having the grandparents over to be able to watch him and take care of him, give us the little bit of a break every once in a while.
Mhm. And how did you did they always offer to help out, or how did you navigate, like how many days a week they might be helping, or how does that work?
Yeah, for the most part, both our parents on both sides have been very, supportive of being there as grandparents and taking care of our kids. And I think they kind of have that maternal instinct on both sides of just wanting to be there for us, but also want to spend time with their grandkids. So I think for them, it's as much of an enjoyable feeling as when they first became parents. Now that they're grandparents.
Mm-hmm. And so, like, my mom usually, because she works still, and so she'll still try to come over on the weekends, whether it's sleeping over for the weekend or coming over during one of the days of the weekend, or us going over there and seeing the grandparents, and then my brother as well. So Ben gets to be around both of the families pretty often.
Oh, yes, that's awesome. Has it gotten easier as baby Ben's gotten older? Like, how have things changed over the past almost 8 months of having a newborn at home?
Yeah, it definitely turns your life upside down. I remember when Kathy still, when she went into labor that night, it was you kind of start off, the first was it 10 months as you're pregnant, you just kind of like, all right, just the two of us. It's kind of the three of us, but the third person doesn't really say a whole lot. So you just kind of, do as if you're still just the two of you. But then as soon as that kid comes out and it's like now it's three of us and the third one needs all the attention, all like everything. They can't do anything on their own yet. So for the first 4 months was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do by far, just because you're not sleeping. Everything is just napping, micro naps, 1 to 2 hours. Then you're back up again, taking care of that kid, and it's the same thing. Diapers, food, burping, and then they go back down again, and then you go back down again. So
Yeah.
you kind of lose track of like what time it is. You just know it's either daytime or nighttime, and that's it.
And it's a bummer that, like paternity mostly is 6 weeks. And so, he barely had a chance to adjust. And by the time he adjusted, oh, he's got to go back to work already. So it's harder for him. And then for me,
Recovery for women is insane. It's so mind-boggling how women go through such an intense experience of being pregnant, carrying a child for 10 months, birthing this child into the world, and then now you're all of a sudden expected to kind of just know what to do, and your body's still recovering, and you got this screaming baby who you have to provide the milk for, so their sustenance and food, and it's incredible, really. It's I feel like most men don't have a lot of respect for women at a certain point in their lives until they get to a point where they see their wives or someone go through that, and you realize like, oh, there's no way any guy in the world could do this. There's no way. We can't handle it. There's no way we can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's so much work. Do you feel like you've gotten more appreciative of your parents after becoming like a parent yourselves?
100%.
Always, like every time we see them, we're like, yeah, if they want to hold Ben longer, and like we don't want him to get used to being held all the time, but if that's what the grandparents want to do, then oh yeah, go for it, because that's our job to teach him, but it's their they earned it as, grandparents to do whatever they want with the kids, whether it's holding them longer or, like feeding them something that they shouldn't be having too much of.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay with us. Yeah, just because we know that they've been through a lot more, and we're just learning what they've been through. So
Yeah.
it's a whole different level of understanding and appreciating our parents.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those. It's funny because yeah, as your kids, you kind of don't think of it like that. You kind of take it for granted until you become a parent yourself. Especially with our parents, when you think about, we have all the resources now. We have YouTube, and it's so easy for us to just ask one of our friends, who's a nurse or a doctor, for help, or just kind of gaining insight. And you see where our parents had to learn from, which is just kind of like asking their friends or asking their family members who have kids, like, what did you do when this happened, and all that. Now we have all books and YouTube videos and everything, so we have a lot more resources so we can rely on. And I look at my parents, I'm like, God, how do you learn how to do all this? And it's just experience. You just kind of try something and see if it works, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, try something else.
Mm-hmm. And there's like other things where I'm like, oh yeah, we read this, and then our parents are like, what are you talking about? We never did that. We just, put you to bed. We didn't do anything else. Like,
No.
like all these toys. There's no such thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many resources now, and I know they had books back then too, but I mean, the availability of resources now, because we didn't grow up having the internet at our fingertips. Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe you could get it through the same line as your phone line back then,
Right.
and like you get it sometimes if someone else is using it so slow. And now like anybody at home, like so many people have access to the internet now, and it's made information so much more accessible. So that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty awesome. Like, what are some of the things that you researched beforehand that you thought were really, really useful now that you're kind of a new parent? Like, was it conversations with friends? Was it maybe babysitting, things on YouTube, things online? Or like, what do you think are like some of the best resources that really prepared you for the experience?
I would say, mostly talking to friends, just because we have a few friends that have kids, and they were honest about the whole experience. Like, they didn't sugarcoat, like, the birthing process. They pretty much were willing to tell us the details, and, it's, you always think like, oh yeah, it's going to be bad, but then, it's worse. But they were honest about it, and then they would share, like, what they did that worked out and what they did that didn't work out. And so, we made notes of that and everything. And I thought that was the most helpful, because we also took some classes, and we felt like the classes focused more on the birthing process, but they didn't really focus much on the after part, when the baby's actually here. Like, we learned how to wrap a baby up, but that doesn't cover most of everything else. And so we thought the classes were good in preparing you for the birthing part, but not the part after. So it really helped with, just learning from our parents and talking to our friends, and reading online, even YouTube too. Like, yeah, we didn't look too much on YouTube, but we were looking at YouTube for like best gear, or like best things for babies, like cribs, and all of that. That was helpful there. But mostly, like, taking care of a baby was like all through our friends and family.
Yeah, I was definitely lucky because my brother has a 15-month-old, so I kind of got to watch, how him and his wife kind of navigated and figured out what it meant to be a parent and how to take care of a little kid. And it's definitely, you can do as much research as you can and kind of ask as many questions as you can, but nothing really fully prepares you for being a parent, especially after the delivery process, because you don't realize just, after Cathy gave birth, like, she's in full recovery mode. So it was, everything hurts. She has problems walking, getting up, sitting up, things of that kind. So I was like, as her partner, I really had to like step up and figure out, like, how do I clean a dirty diaper? No one's going to help you. You're going to have to just figure this out. And, luckily I had my brother who I'd ask, like, what are the stages of poop? And that's a very important, kind of motion to go through with someone who knows, who's gone through it, which is, the first comes out a certain color. Don't panic, because it seems like a color that you're like, this shit doesn't seem natural. And so it's just
And
little
what
things.
color was that? The pure black type of color? And
Yeah,
you're like, I've
it's like
never seen black poop before.
yeah, it's like black tar. It comes out extremely sticky. It's like you can't wipe it with a normal wipe kind of thing. You have to like add this vitamin A or vitamin D kind of coating on top, like it's almost like a
Like Vaseline.
Vaseline. Yeah, so it kind of makes the skin a little bit less sticky. So you can just wipe it right off. But it's little things like that, or like, it's gonna go from like that black tar color to like yellow, and then it's gonna go to like more of a brown color, which is normal. So, and also you get very comfortable talking like this because you see it all the time, and you know you learn to just live with it.
It's like an everyday thing.
Yeah, you just don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. What do you think has been maybe one of the maybe most disturbing things that have had happen to you as like a new parent? Like, was it just like cleaning the poop or the poop colors, or was it just maybe how tired you are? I don't know. What do you think has been very surprising to you and potentially disturbing at the same time?
I think mine is the easy one. So I have a story where my son had like the worst blowout, and a blowout is when your kids completely they have a big poop and it blows completely out the diaper. So I had an experience where like my son, I was feeding him sitting at the end of our bed, and he was trying to push, so that's he's pooping, so you kind of just pull the bottle out, you kind of wait, give him a second, see whether or not he's done or not. And it was literally within a few seconds I realized that the diaper that I had put on him was not holding any longer. So it was like the floodgates had opened. There was poop all down my leg, all on my body, it was all over the bed. It was incredible. So that was probably the grossest and most surprising thing that's ever happened with him, was just the sheer amount of volume of poop that had come out. And then the fact that he was in a fresh new diaper. It was one that fit him. And it was the fact that there was nothing I really felt helpless because I didn't know what to do. It was like my brain just like shut down because it was like, oh, he's just pooping now. So I guess I'll just sit here and wait until he finishes, and then I'll clean all this up later. So that was, for me, that was the most kind of shocking, like, oh no moment.
Like, you could poop that much? Like,
yeah.
You're like this little tiny human being, and then all this poop is coming out of you. And then we had to like run him over to his room to change him. And as we were running him over there's like droplets of poop, like, just dropping onto the floor. And then you realize, oh, how do I take off his clothes without smudging poop all over him? And then running him back over to the tub instead, because that would have been the better idea.
Yeah, it's little things like that where you kind of you think about it, you're like, oh, why don't you just do this to begin with? But the combination of sleep deprivation and then the fact that you're kind of panicking because you don't know what to do at that very moment and all that. So like, well, we should have. I mean, now we would have just like pulled everything off and just hosed him down in the tub kind of thing. And unfortunately, we've done that more than once because he's blown out of his diaper many, many times. So it's just something that happens. So it's just an experience thing.
Yeah. And then for me, one of the most surprising but also like kind of painful moments was pumping. Like pumping is a hard thing. You have to do it regularly, to get your milk to continue with the flow. And so for some reason, mine started clogging in one side. And, it started getting so warm and it was swollen and I couldn't pump it out. Like, I read online that you could put, like hot water onto, like a cloth and just leave it there and try to like massage yourself and all those things. And, nothing was working. And I tried pumping several times and, it didn't unclog it. And then we read online that, just making sure like, you can talk to your doctor first to get their recommendation or, any tips. But what we ended up doing was, have a sterilized needle, and Brian helped. And so we sterilized the area and also the needle. And then he had to run it across the top of the tip of the nipple and helped unclog it. And, once he got that, the right poke and everything, the milk just released and you could just feel a sigh of relief, because at first it was like so painful. It was so hard and swollen and, you were just so uncomfortable, like you could feel it. And once he got that, it was just like the release was so much better. It felt so much better. But it's like, those things you don't hear about. Everyone talks already about how pumping is a lot of work, just as breastfeeding. And then you get a clog, and then you wonder, oh no, like, is that the reason, or what do I do to release it? And when you think about a needle, you're like, okay, that's like a little bit extreme. And then, once you figure it out, you feel a lot better. But going through that whole process of learning, and it's just a scary factor, disturbing, but also, like, it's a way of life. So
Yeah, a lot of people I've talked to a lot of women who actually have like a lot of trouble with breastfeeding, whether it's like too painful or they just weren't prepared for it, or they have like really dense like muscles in their breasts that make it really hard for them to get the milk out. Some people even hire specialists that help them actually pump and do like special massages,
Mhm.
like a I guess milk massaging specialist for human women, like to just be able to get their milk out, whether it's like having issues or not, or even just buying like a really good brand of pump, like a mom's pump. Wow, that is very difficult. I didn't even know about that needle technique, to be honest. So
yeah.
wow.
I don't know how much of an approved technique that is. It might just be just one of the nurses mentioned it to us that you could try doing this if you're comfortable, but obviously, because the most thing you worry about is infection. So you have to be able to release that milk in some way. And that was really the only way we could do it. I mean, we thought about it and kind of mulled over a few options, but that was the only thing we could possibly do. So
Yeah, so he was like super gentle and just, let's just try to run it across really lightly, like a few times, and then we just released it, and then we're like, oh my gosh, that felt so much better. Yeah, otherwise it would have gotten an infection if it was still in there and it couldn't be released.
mhm.
And can the doctors do something like that for you? Like, can you go into the office, or like, I think another thing, that would be a challenge for a lot of people, and this is whether you're a new parent or not, is like knowing like, oh, how bad is it to the point where I need to see a doctor, or like, how bad is it to I need to go into the hospital to actually see someone, or emergency room? Like how did you make that kind of decision, or like what kind of helped lead you one way or another? Like, let's just try it before we go to the hospital, maybe, so they can like surgically do something for us.
Yeah, we emailed our, because you know how nowadays you send a message to your doctor, and so we asked our lactation specialist, at our doctor's location, and she said there was multiple things. The needle thing was also one of them. And she also said the same things, like, take a warm bath and massage yourself, and then try again, try pumping. Otherwise you could go in. But with the pandemic and everything, we kind of wanted to try all our options first before having to go back in. And so, we tried that needle thing, and it worked out. And we even messaged her after and said it worked out. And she was like really happy to hear. And she said, that's good that, you were able to try it out, even though it's very daunting, with running a needle, that's the scary part. But that was where we were like, let's just try every option we can before we have to go in, and then we'll go in. Yeah, it's all about just trying, and especially when it's a new territory of parenting and everything. We might as well try it. What could be worse than giving birth, right?
That's very true. That is very true. I guess in terms of, the things that you've learned, this needle technique, yeah, I never heard it myself. I'm not a lactation specialist. That's like news to me. Like, has there been any other like tips or products or things that you've used that you felt like have really improved your experience, like as you've gotten, more and more months under your belt as a parent?
For me, not really. If it's just really more along the lines of just listening to and learning from what your child is needing from you. Like I've learned like what different whines and different cries mean. A lot of the times he just wants attention. Giving him that attention, but not giving him too much attention at one time. In the sense that he wants to be picked up a lot more now, and so we're trying to get him to crawl more, or even at this point standing. So he's learning how to do all those things, but obviously he doesn't take doing new things very well at first. So you just have to kind of learn to just not ignore him crying, just reassure him that everything is okay, but that he's fine, to just keep playing or keep trying it out. So I think that's probably the hardest part for me right now, is just not doing it for him, kind of picking him up immediately. It's just kind of sitting there, watching him, reassuring him. But yeah, for the most part for me, no, but that's also because as the guy, like that's pretty much what my job is at this point. I clean the diapers, I help clean him. Kathy's the one with kind of all like the different product stuff that she has to apply for herself, or for Ben, because she told me to put lotion on, I put lotion on. He has a rash, I put stuff on the rash. That's pretty much what I do. So
yeah, like for me, it helped that I'm part of a other moms group on Facebook, and they're all just moms with the same March due dates, like March month due dates, and we share the same things that we've come across or what things we learned. And what's great was one of the moms reached out to a company that has they sell like products for teething, and so she got a coupon for all of us, and so we all got the code, and we bought it, and so it's been one of the popular toys for our son. So that was pretty cool. And one of the moms also found out that the way clothing is, like the onesies for babies, there's a reason why the shoulder part is made the way it is, so that you can actually slip it, you can extend it wider and slip the clothing down instead of head over the baby. And there's a reason for, like, if they have a blowout, you don't have to pull it up over their face and get poop over their face. You could just pull it under and keep them clean that way. So you learn like different tips, and like they talk about car seats. One of the moms is also, like a registered car seat safety, technician. And so she knows, and she was giving us, tips on how to safely attach the car seat into the car. And we could send pictures, and she'll tell us if the seatbelt buckle is too high up. And so it's pretty cool. Like everyone has like different experiences or, different knowledge. And so they share it. And that's been really helping me as well. But yeah, like, just all those fun tips, and, researching like pumps beforehand, because, now like we're able to get free pumps, free breast pumps before, back in the day you didn't get free ones, you had to go buy it. And so it's nice to, get people's advice on which one worked best for them, or which one's best for going to work, and which one's best for, being quiet. So that really helped.
Yeah, in terms of those pumps, like which ones have you found to be really helpful in terms of like the different brands? And by free pumps, do you mean the pumps that are given to you, or pumps that anyone can buy them now and it's more accessible to purchase versus like before, like they didn't mass produce them?
Yeah, so like with insurance now, most insurances nowadays have at least several range of types of pumps, breast pumps, that you could get for free under your insurance. And so like you would get things like Medela, Spectra. Like the one I liked is this one. Oops, I don't know if you can see it.
Closer.
Helping, trying to help. Yeah. But it's a pink one, it's Spectra. And the reason why I liked it is because it's quiet, because I know that I was going back to work. And so I wanted one that was quiet, that didn't make sounds like while you're at work, right? And it's lightweight, and it's portable, so it's a small size. So those are some of the things I looked at. And some of it's called a flange, where it's the part that attaches to your breast. And, the flange is interchangeable with different bottles as well. So you wouldn't have to carry so many different bottles. You could use the one that you're using to feed him, instead of having to use the bottle that they give you, and then you pour it into the bottle that you usually use to feed him. So those are just some of the factors that I looked at. And, I asked around, my sister-in-law, and asked my friends, what did you find was best? And some of them even have 3. So where you get a free one, right? And then they bought 2 other ones to keep in different locations. It just depends on what is convenient for you. And so these are the breast pumps you get. You can also rent breast pumps at the hospital, for a lower price too, which is great too. So there's so many different options out there nowadays compared to back in the day where, you had to buy them yourself. And so they could range from $100 to $300. And, there's some now that are even $600. And that's crazy if you, and a lot of insurances they won't cover the ones that aren't on their list of free breast pumps. And so it's just so crazy how like this industry of, like just breast pumps, baby stuff, it can get expensive for people.
Yeah, maybe the ones that have $600 also have like a Google Home or Alexa built in. So you're like, start playing music.
Yeah,
Right.
Bluetooth.
Plays a song for you at the same time.
Yeah. Those ones are like portable, so they don't even have any wires. I think they run by battery or they're rechargeable. And so they just attach to you and you could just walk around. Nobody would even know. Like they're so small too. It's like a discreet one.
Wow. So people wouldn't even be able to tell that you're pumping. It's just kind of all like hidden.
Yeah. There's no cords, nothing. So then it just hides in your bra, and that's how it works. And I'm like, how does that work? But it's just so expensive, like the whole, like it's not as affordable in some areas. But I understand why too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow, that's amazing that so much technology has happened because but I've talked to like older moms and they're saying like, oh, breast pumps, like I used to rent one, and then nowadays it looks like a lot of people I know have their own breast pumps, and that's like really cool how it's so much more accessible. Are those products things that you could maybe give to someone else after? Are they like reusable or like reshareable in that way? Are you familiar?
Yeah, you can definitely share them because, like, I know some of my friends got hand-me-down ones from like their friends or their siblings, and all you have to do is just buy new cords or like new flanges, new bottle parts. So it's very simple now. Like they're so widespread everywhere. You can get them on Amazon. You just get replacement parts everywhere. So it's very easy. I think sometimes they can't be reused only because um, the pumping suction doesn't work that well anymore in the machine. So that's where you wouldn't be able to use it again. Otherwise, they're very reshareable. And I think I remember reading somewhere that, like my pump specifically has like a lifetime of like, 3 or 4 years. If I use it regularly, like, 6 times a day or so, it will last that long. So it just really depends on how much you use the machine and if you let it overheat. What's great, mine has a 30-minute timer, and after that it shuts off. So, it just depends on how much you pump for, because there's one that's called like a power pumping session where it's an hour long, and it's like an increment of 20 minutes, and then you pause for 10 minutes, and then you do 20 minutes again, and then you're done. Or like there's one where it's 15, and then you take a break for 10, and then you do 15 again, and then you take a break, and then you do it again. So there's many different like kind of pumping sessions that people do to get the milk continuing its flow. So it's all different areas, but yeah, these pumps could definitely go for a long time. And I know like insurance, I think it was, once you get your first pump in, it's like a year or two later, I think it's probably 2 years later that you could get another free one. So, you can just continue like that.
Yeah, that's super educational. I didn't know that the insurance would like be able to cover. I guess that makes sense because if you're having a lot of children, your pump could break. So like 2 years makes a lot of sense why you might need another one, because you could have had 2 babies in that time frame and you could be pumping all day. So wow, that's amazing. In terms of like figuring out the brands, was it mainly that mom's group on Facebook that helped you and kind of talking with friends to kind of do the research on what brand or what pumping style worked best for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like some of our friends are, they use different brands, and they're not shy to use the pump in front of us. So like they'll have like, their pumping cover over them, but they have the machine running, and they'll talk to us about it too. And they'll let us know like, oh, this is why I like this one. And this is why I bought another one. This is why I have 3 of them, because they all have different things that are special about them and it works for them. The moms group talked about it a little bit, but I didn't join that group until like, around like December. So my due date wasn't until March. So I only had 3 months of, time before with that group. But yeah, they did mention it, which ones they got and what insurance they had to get them. But the one that helped the most was actually, going through my insurance, and then they gave me the link to go to. And so I can click on the different links and see what was offered. And there's some that are offered, but you have to pay a little bit more for it. And so I found those, and then you just kind of click on it and see what they have available and what they're good for. And so they'll tell you like if it's quiet or if they're like rechargeable pumps where you don't have to carry it anywhere. Or I'm sorry, if you can carry it anywhere after you give it a full charge. So those are, I think that helped me more because I knew what kind of the selection was, and I can research from there from just clicking on the product and reading what was good about it. Even YouTube helped a lot too. Like I would look up like the Spectra versus the Medela, and so many moms compared those two. Like those are very common. And so that was what led me to get the Spectra, was just going through all these different reviews on YouTube and looking on the websites.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you can find a lot of really good reviews on things on YouTube. And then that's really great that your insurance even listed out all the ones they cover and how much it covers. Because oftentimes I feel like a lot of people get really confused with insurance because it's not really clear like how much is going to be covered. You go to the appointment and you come back after and you're like, what? That appointment costs this much and my insurance only covered this much. So like that's actually really surprising. It's very clear about like which ones they cover and then how much of it is covered and how much you owe, I guess, out of pocket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that really helped. What's funny is that the first time I looked was they gave like different links and I clicked on them, but then one of them I applied for and it says $0 everything, and then I got a message later that said, oh, it costs us this much. And so I thought that was really weird. So then I called my insurance and I asked them again, like, this was on your website, like these were the links that we could use. And he thought it was strange too. And so he sent that message to escalate the issue there, and then he gave me the other links that were actually good that he knew of, and so I used those, and those told me everything, like what the cost was and which ones I need to pay for a little bit more. So it is kind of funny sometimes, or I think they don't always update it, but it's always good to ask, and usually those breast pump providers will tell us if there's an issue or something. They would let you know, like, oh yeah, it actually does cost more than what insurance will cover.
Oh, wow. Yeah. With insurance, I think a lot of times you just kind of have to call them, because I've had issues where like they didn't cover something and it should have been covered under my insurance, and then I need to call them to clarify, and they're like, oh, we'll get back to you, and then they send you like, oh, these are the providers that are in network and it should have covered this much or whatever. It's probably one of those industries where a lot of people have issues with it because it's so necessary, but also so they're just trying to make money too because they're a company. So it's kind of crazy. So you were able to purchase it. You mentioned like some of the providers, they themselves, the manufacturers, when you purchase from them, they can tell you like, does your insurance cover this purchase or not?
Yeah. It's kind of funny. Like on the websites, they tell you like there's a link that says like insurance covered breast pumps, and then it'll be like breast pumps with extra cost. And so you pretty much have to fill out your information, and then you type in like your insurance provider, and you provide your insurance group number and everything. And they actually use that information and they call your insurance, and then they ask, oh, like, is this, customer actually under your insurance? And then they email you back and they let you know like, oh yeah, you have, you qualify for some free breast pumps, and then they have the different list of different things and you can click from there. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you get reimbursed after you make the purchase, or when you make the purchase they can already deduct from it?
Yeah, when you make the purchase it just shows $0.
Wow.
So you don't have to worry about anything. It's kind of funny, like mine gave me the like the whole receipt and everything, and then I didn't get any like notification after like if it was shipped or not. And then so like 2 weeks later I got my breast pump, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess it went through and they had no issues. It's just funny that they don't tell you really.
Yeah. You're like, did the purchase go through or not? Did I get an email confirmation or not?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's actually news to me. I didn't realize that so many insurances covered breast pumps nowadays. So that's really good. Yeah, I guess now that baby is a little bit more independent, do you feel like you get more sleep now? How has it been, I guess, the past few months? Like, have you noticed any big changes in your lifestyle throughout the lifetime?
Probably, yeah. It's gotten better. He's sleeping longer now. So as I said before, like the first 4 months were really rough, but after that, he started really sleeping through the night. I think once we moved him over into his crib, that really kind of changed everything. He's able to sleep a little bit longer in general, and I think the better part now that he's actually able to play. Like before, where when he couldn't play because he was too small, or he couldn't really move yet, you just kind of lay him on his back and he just stays there. So it's a little bit better now that he can sit up. He's trying to stand and he can crawl. So he goes to his toys, he plays with things that he wants, and then when he doesn't want to do it anymore, he goes a different toy now. So he's a lot more independent from that perspective. But now it's a little bit more worrisome because before we can just leave him somewhere and he's going to be there when you come back. But now he could be anywhere. So now it's just about fixing certain things, constantly cleaning the floors and vacuuming and mopping the floor because he's constantly on them. And then every once in a while you won't hear him and it's kind of quiet. And that's when you kind of, what's he doing? What does he get himself into? So like one time he got caught in between like our sofa and like our little like playpen thing. So he was just kind of like sitting there by himself, just wedged in there. And so it got quiet. So I was like, oh, something's wrong. So I went to go check on him and realized he got wedged himself in there, and I kind of yank him out from there. And also now that he's starting to stand, he'll get up and then he'll sometimes fall. So he'll cry out for us when that happens. And most of the time it's not because he's hurt or anything. It's just a shocking thing to him. So it's like a double-edged sword. It's gotten easier, but it's also a little bit more hectic now that he's moving.
Yeah, like the whole level of supervision has gone up versus back then where we could just, like he said, where we could just leave him anywhere and then we come back and he's for sure there. But now he could be like anywhere. He could be hiding under something or, trying to get out of his playpen because he knows how to crawl out of there. And, so it's funny. I mean, the sleep has improved at times, but he does wake up at 6 almost every day. Just because I think he can hear Brian when he wakes up to do his, video call for work. So he's probably up at that time. And so, our normal is now 6. And, but Ben usually doesn't really go down until like 9:30ish around there. And so, and then we go to sleep a little bit later because obviously we have to shower and do everything else. So it takes us a little bit longer to get into bed. So then it's harder for us to wake up at 6. So our days are kind of like, this is the whole work-life balance thing is a little bit hard. But yeah, but it does feel a little bit better because he's more interactive now, and you can watch him grow, and he's learning to take the bottle by himself, where he'll hold it himself, and so it's pretty cool to see that he's progressing and he's learning a lot.
That's awesome. So you get a longer amount of sleep in terms of a sleep window, in terms of like a consistent, you're not interrupted. But then during the daytime, you have to be more alert because he could get himself into trouble or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would take that over the waking up every 3 hours to feed him. It's a lot easier because he's a easy sleeper where he can sleep anytime and he'll just drop down, just pass out. For me, I would have to take like at least half an hour to an hour, and then I get comfortable and then I go sleep. But then by the time I get there, then Ben wakes up for food, right? So I'd rather take the longer length of sleep uninterrupted. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, so it's gotten better. As a whole, it's gotten better. You just got to be a little more aware of him and make sure he doesn't, put things in his mouth or get himself stuck, or you've got to make sure he always kind of stays on the mat because we have hardwood flooring. So little things like that. But I think as a parent, you get kind of used to that. You're kind of always listening for them and you're kind of always around them in general. So you never really turn off per se. Even when you're sleeping, you kind of always kind of listen for them. just in case they need you. So you're kind of always on. And I think that's probably the hardest part. It's that just a constant marathon as being a parent, just never turning it off.
Yeah. And so when he was a baby and he would cry, was he staying in your room and you just kind of go there to like feed him or and then go back to bed? But now he's like sleeping in a further room. So you're still like listening for like any issues or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah. So we had a bassinet, and it was next to Kathy when we were sleeping when he was very little. And yeah, so whenever he'd wake up crying or whatever the case may be, typically it's always about food. So I would normally just get up, go get the bottles from the fridge, and start warming it for him. Um, and then now that he's sleeps in across this side of the house, basically, he's in his own room now. He sleeps pretty much through the whole night now. And then so normally when I get up, I'll get ready for my early morning meeting, and then I'll start a bottle for him. So he doesn't normally wake up at all. And even then he doesn't really cry out. He kind of just plays in his crib for a little while by himself, kind of acclimates himself, and then maybe like 20 minutes later, we'll probably after he wakes up, we typically feed him. So we kind of let him acclimate when he first wakes up, because he's pretty sleepy when he first wakes up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like he'll be on his call, and then as the bottle's warming, I wake up, and then I walk over, and or if I see Ben awake, then I'll walk over and get him, change his diaper and everything, bring him over, and then feed him, and then that gives him a chance to kind of just relax and digest his milk and everything, and then Brian will be done his call, and then he'll get ready for work, or basically getting ready to go to his parents, or getting ready for his next meeting. And so I'll be pumping at the same time while I'm watching Ben as he's getting ready. So we have like the schedule down and everything.
Yeah. So what's kind of your day like nowadays in terms of like, so the morning you kind of staggered wake up of like Brian handling some of the stuff and then Cathy handling some of the stuff, and then you're both working full time at this moment too?
Hmm. Yeah, so typically I have a daily 6:30 call that I have every single day, Monday through Friday, with an offshore team in India. So that's why the call's so early in the morning. So I'll get up at around 6. I'll start the bottle. I'll get ready for my meeting, and then Kathy will grab Ben when he wakes up. He normally wakes up anywhere between like 6:30 and 7. Lately, it's been a little bit earlier, like between 6 and 6:30. So she'll get him, change him, feed him the bottle that I prepared, and then yeah, I'll get ready. Then I'll take Ben downstairs. We have this makeshift playpen area that it's a combination of like the couch that keeps him kind of enclosed, and then we kind of put his playpen around that so that he's basically can play in the center of it. And then so I'm at my parents' place every other week, and then every other week they come here. So like this past week they were here. Next week I'll be at my parents' place. And so on the days I have to go up there, I'll have to get him ready to go after I get ready. And then in between meetings, I'll drive up to my parents' place, and then my parents will watch him throughout the day. And that's kind of the same thing for when they come up to here. They'll come here, and then they'll watch him, and then I'll get ready for my next meeting.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's nice that you kind of have a built-in like daycare type of system with your parents being able to help out. And then in the evening, what's your evening like?
Yeah, so typically he has a pretty good schedule right now in the afternoon for his nap. So he normally naps for like 2 to 3 hours. So during that time period, I'll finish work around 4, and so I'll just be me. And typically he's sleeping during that time period. Kathy leaves work around like 5-ish, 5:30-ish, and so by that point, by the time she gets home, he wakes up. It's like he knows when she comes home. It's either that or it coincides with his last feeding, and he wakes up because he's hungry. So at that point, he'll wake up, and then Kathy will shower and kind of relax from work, and then so I'll change him, get him ready, and everything like that, and then get that bottle ready, as well as his food. So we're also feeding him solids now. So 3 times a day, we'll have to feed him his breakfast, lunch, and dinner as well, aside from the bottle feedings too. So that's pretty much what our evenings look like. Kathy will play with him for a while since she didn't get to see him for like 8 hours. So she'll play a lot with him until around 9:30, and then he gets tired again, and it's time for him to go to sleep. But it's fun because he actually knows when it's like nighttime sleeping and when it's nap time. So it's weird. Like during nap times, he'll wake up every 2 to 3 hours. He'll be down for 2 to 3 hours, and he'll wake up, and then at night it's like he's down for like 8, 9, 10 hours. So it's pretty crazy how they know that it's like, oh, it's nighttime. It's time for me to sleep. So
yeah, it's like they're all geared for it.
no.
Yeah. Yeah. So I try to make the best of it when I get home at night and, play with him, feed him, everything, and interact with him as much as I can, and then going to nighttime, we give him a bath together, and then we bring him over, change him and everything, and then put him down. And, we do kind of the same routine where we'll like turn on his white noise, like turn off the light, and then, blow him some kisses. So he becomes regular, like, oh, I know, like, this is nighttime, and then it's like the same cycle every day. Yeah. On the weekends, it's a little bit more flexible. Like, he may not take a longer nap as needed, or, he'll sleep a little bit at different times, just so that he gets used to, like there will be interruptions through the schedule. And so, you won't always take the same naps, same amount of time, same time of the day. So, yeah, we try to keep him as, so he can adjust to any kind of situation.
Yeah, that sounds like you've got a nice little routine built out. It's hard to be working full time and have a newborn at home, but it sounds like you've found a way to make it work. And it's nice that you've kind of staggered your schedules in a way where it can work out for the both of you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, wow, what a challenge! But you're doing it. You're doing great. You're taking a good job of him. He's so cute and so chunky, and he has such a great smile. Such good hair too. So one of the best hairs I've seen on a baby, like ever.
Yeah, he's been very blessed with a lot of hair.
No.
Yeah, a big smile and a lot of hair. That's like all a baby needs to be like extra cute and lovable. Yeah. Oh, cool. Well, if there's any like pieces of advice. Oh, I guess one thing I do want to mention to people, if they aren't familiar already with it, is a Buy Nothing group. I see a ton of moms giving away like baby clothes because they grow out of it so quickly. A ton of moms giving away like baby items, baby playpen things, like baby, just like baby toys, like rockers and things like that children can enjoy, because especially if they're not having any more children, they're just going to give it away and kind of pay it forward. Mm-hmm. To other moms. And so like that's something I want to plug. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to check out your local Buy Nothing group yet.
Yeah, I joined one after you told me. So I joined in. Yeah, it's a lot of baby clothes on there.
Yeah, so much baby clothes, like baby books. Like I've seen so much stuff on there. It's really cool. Like, and all you do is like ask for stuff, and people just give stuff away, or they're just offering free stuff, and you just pick it up, and it's so local. Like you'll get to meet people in your area too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really good that people are willing to give things to other people that are in need, especially during this time. So it's nice to see, like, someone will say, like, oh, I'm in search of this, and there's so many people posting like, oh, I have this, like, let me know so I can, we can schedule a time. So it's nice that people are helpful of each other, and it's just being kind in the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially since so much baby stuff, you need to buy like new things that maybe you didn't already have. What are like, maybe if you had to pick like the most necessary things to buy before you have a baby and before you give birth, like what do you think you would put on there?
Lots of baby formula. We made the mistake of the first few days. We didn't have any baby formula and didn't realize that he was just not getting enough milk from Cathy initially. So he was losing a lot of weight. So a lot of the times he would just cry out in the middle of the night because he was hungry. And we thought he was getting enough from Cathy. He just wasn't. So supplementing with formula is a must. So I would recommend that anyone who's a first-time parent who doesn't have it, just have a stock of like a week's worth of formula, because you're going to see your doctor again, and you want to not see them lose too much weight for that first doctor's checkup with your pediatrician. So that would be my biggest kind of like, make sure you have some of this. And we highly recommend the Similac Pro Advanced. It's obviously very expensive, but it's the best one. It's the one our hospital recommended. It's the one that we used while we were at the hospital. It's one they actually recommended for us when we went home after we saw the pediatrician. Mm-hmm. So that's probably the best one. A solid car seat don't go cheap on the car seat. And we really like the what's the weight scale thing that we use for him? Do you remember what that's called?
Oh yeah, it's a changing pad, but it can weigh you on there.
Yeah, it doubles as like a scale, so you kind of measure your child's weight. So that way kind of if they're increasing weight or not. Because in the beginning stages, it's all about weight. That's the biggest thing. So you won't know whether or not your child's eating enough until you see how much weight they've gained. And you pretty much make it into the clear when your child has doubled their birth weight. That's when you know everything is going to be fine. Their digestive system is working fine. There's no infections. There's no problems. They're totally normal. So we highly recommend that. That's kind of an expensive thing. It's like what, $250, I think.
Probably. I think
Yeah.
it's 200.
Yeah. It's pretty expensive, but we use it all the time. So highly recommend it.
Is that the gray one that I saw at your place? I didn't know that was the scale.
Yeah. So it actually integrates with like your phone. So you just download the app. I think Hatch Baby. That's what it's called, the Hatch Baby. So it's like a foam pad. It's very comfortable for the baby to lay on. And then you just bring it up on your phone's app, and then you just kind of click on it, and it weighs them. So you can kind of see how much they weigh and everything. It's really nice. And the Hatch Baby also has, it keeps track of like how much formula they've had, or how many often their feedings will be, or their diapers, because you have to know how many they want to have. How many feedings is it a day? Like 6 to 7 feedings a day, and then like 4 to 6 diapers a day. I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Wow.
So you go all those things you have to kind of track, and it's a good way of tracking everything all in one app.
Yeah, because your pediatrician will ask you, at the different visits, like, how much is baby, consuming, and how often are you changing their diapers, and what color is the diaper, and so you can record all of that on your phone too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it really helps. Yeah, like another thing I really liked was the swaddle. A lot of people talk about, sleeping and how to keep the baby, sleeping in. The swaddle was really, really important for us, and we actually liked the one that has Velcro. So it's I forgot what brand it is.
Halo?
Oh yeah, the Halo sleep sack.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that one really helped us, and you can really tighten it on the baby, and it was just very nice. Like it's a built-in everything, and yeah, that really helped our little one sleep for very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of when adults get weighted blankets, and it's kind of gives you that like warm, comforting feeling. And especially like people who don't know about babies, like they don't realize like babies need to be like put in something so they don't like flip over or move around or scratch themselves or anything. You have to like protect them from themselves. Like, like they could suffocate themselves. Like they're just not the brightest. They are babies. Like they need to be protected from themselves.
Yeah. You mentioned like the weighted blanket. The one we also use now that he's older is the Nest bean one, and it has like beans in the middle of it, basically built into the cloth, and so it's a sleep sack with that weighted on the chest, so it helps them also from feeling like someone's holding them, and it also keeps them from turning over, like you said. Yeah. So that's the baby version. Yeah. So those are all good stuff to have. And yeah, I think having a bassinet is nice, or anything that you can do to keep your baby in your room for the first few months. Like some people say, sleeping on the bed, there's so many different ways of having them sleep. But for us, it worked best with having them in a bassinet next to me. And then you could always watch them. Yeah. But in a safe way.
Yeah. And by people sleeping on the bed, you mean the babies would sleep on the bed next to the parents?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like some babies feel more comfort when they're actually laying on the bed next to their parents so they can feel the warmth. But it also poses a little bit of a danger, if the parent rolls, and, it could suffocate them, or like a blanket or, pillow. So it's recommended that they're in a bassinet or a crib next to the bed. Yeah, but some people are able to do it where they can also put the baby in a portable bassinet and put it on the bed. So those worked out too for, some of our friends and family too. Yeah, as like every baby is different. So, it's the parent's job to find out what's working best for them and their baby.
Yeah, we have some of our friends that even bother with a bassinet. They just put them right in the crib in the room next to them. and that totally worked for them. So there's really no such thing as like a rule book when it comes to kids, as long as they're eating really is the most important thing. So as long as they're gaining weight, getting fed well, with as much nutritional food as you can give them, primarily, obviously breast milk or a well-made formula. That's pretty much it. Everything else, you kind of just figure out. Every kid is different too. Some kids need a little more attention than others. Some kids like to be held. Some kids don't. Some kids like to be held a certain way. Some kids don't like being held a certain way. It's just, you have to just kind of read the kid. And as a parent, you pick it up really fast, obviously, because you're around them constantly. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, everyone always asks like, oh, are you ready for a baby? You will never ever be ready for a baby until you're put into that position, and so you don't want to feel pressured. You can always just say, I'm not ready, right? But you're going to have a baby. But I know the basics, and that's going to get you through it. As long as you're willing to be patient with your baby and as well as your spouse, or your partner, that's what matters the most. It's a big learning curve, and that's what you just need to be ready for is, having that dose of reality that you're a parent, and it's up to you to shape this baby and help them grow and learn and, be what they will be when they get older.
I mean, those are good advice for really anything that you're going to embark on, like knowing, like, even if you're not perfectly ready, trying your best to like learn the different things, like be supportive of your partner and the people, that you're working with, and just listening to their needs. Like, this is all useful things, whether you're having a baby or you're starting a new company, like these are all like super vital. So that's awesome. Sounds like you two were really able to work together and like figure it out as you go, but also like asking friends and tapping into your friendships and support networks. So that's awesome. Wow. Do you have any last parting words of wisdom now that you've kind of passed some of the different stages of newborn babiness?
I think just in general, if you're the one who like didn't carry the baby, you don't want to complain about anything ever again. So just be way more patient, be way more understanding. If you're someone who, you're just like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready, and I'm just not sure, then just all you gotta do is take a deep breath and realize everyone's gone through this before. You'll be okay. You'll get through it. You just gotta really make sure that it's whatever you do, it's not about you anymore. You gotta really do it for your family. Having a child really has changed my perspective of what's important to me. And I think for most people who say they're not ready, I think it's really just around, can I give up these things that I normally love to do on my own, or having my me time? You just don't have those anymore. And it's not a bad thing. It's just, you just have to learn to cope with the fact that you're never going to be alone anymore. And the alone time that you do get, the little time that you do get, you savor it and you enjoy it, because it's not going to last for much longer. So you just kind of roll with it, but just don't complain, because after everything that I saw Cathy go through during the birthing process, like there's no room left for me to ever complain about anything ever again, because there's no way I'm ever going to go through that. And there's no way I'd ever want to do that. Couldn't handle it.
Funny.
Yeah.
Hey, but it does get better. Like it's tough in the beginning because you're just learning. You're going through with the flow, and you're learning about yourself, but you're learning about the baby. You're learning about your partner too. Just know that it gets better, and it really does. Like for us, it got better around the 3-4 month time period, as he was getting better at sleeping and everything. So it does get better, and you have to be able to be patient. Like that's the most important thing, is be patient, and it does get better. And as long as you have a great support group, I think that's very important to have a good support group. Whether it's your parents or your friends, even if you're your neighbor, whoever you think is a good support group, keep them there, and don't be afraid to ask them questions. You might think it's silly, but they're like, no, it's important. I went through it too. And, it's nice to have that support group to lean on to and ask questions, like anything, And it does get better, and it's a very rewarding experience. Everyone says that, and we very much agree that it is a rewarding experience. All the hardships through it is all worth it. Just seeing this bouncing chubby little baby boy, it's worth it.
Especially when you see them picking things up, little things, the poop color changed. Yes, I mean, his digestive system's doing better, or he's handling solids really well, or he's standing, or he's crawling. Because when they first started doing tummy time, it was really hard for Kathy and I, because he would start just screaming and crying like he's in a ton of pain, but it's just that he's uncomfortable. He's not comfortable being on his stomach, and then now he's crawling all over the place. He's trying to get up and stand, and then you get like this flash of like innocence from him, that he smiles at you, and you're just kind of like, oh, you know what you're doing. Oh, okay, all right, you're good, you're fine. And that changes. I mean, that makes all those late night or early morning 3-hour naps that you get throughout the day all worth it, when they kind of give you that little flash of a smile, and they're just like, oh, okay, you're okay, everything's okay, all right, I'm fine, I'm gonna take a nap, okay.
Yeah, wow. Thank you so much for sharing. I know we didn't touch up on all the difficulties of being a parent, or even the childbirth piece of it, which, is such a story from like so many people, like all the difficulties they had to go through for that, or really, really long labors and all this confusion. But this is really insightful for me, kind of just like rehearing some of these things, or talking about some things we hadn't gotten a chance to talk to you about yet. And I hope it goes well. Baby Ben's so cute. He's seriously one of the cutest babies I've seen in my life. So like, hopefully I'll get to keep seeing him grow and doing more things. Well, thanks again, Brian and Cathy, for being on the show today and being able to share your experience. We'll just sign off as always. Deep breath in together. Deep breath out. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. Take care.
Cool. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.